What's good, Commanders fans? Just wanted to do my annual post-draft winners and losers video. Every year I do this. Basically just saying how the draft picks impacted some of the current guys who are on the roster, who benefited the most from the picks, and then who kind of was a loser and may be losing their spot. They started last year and they may not be starting this year because of the guy that we drafted at their position, or they may get less snaps because of the person that we drafted at their position. So let's start with the guys that I feel like are winners. I feel like Jaden Daniels is clearly a winner with this one. I mean, you get another wide receiver, you get a speedy wide receiver in Jaylen Lane who can take the top off the defense. And he, of course, the starters are going to be Terry, Debo, and Noah, or Terry, Debo, and Luke McCaffrey. But when Jaylen Lane gets in the game, like I feel like he's going to be a secret weapon, a guy that is kept under the radar. When he's put into the game, he gets snaps and opportunities. Jaden loves to throw the ball downfield. You see the pass with Cleveland, against Cleveland to De'Ami Brown. You see the pass against the Lions to De'Ami Brown, and all the passes to Terry McLaurin. He throws a beautiful deep pass. So to have a guy, when we have our no-huddle offense, our up-tempo offense, and we can catch teams off guard and teams are tired. You can see teams were tired playing against us when we just kept doing our no-huddle, up-tempo, converting on fourth downs and whatnot. Jaden just taking the soul away from teams on 4th and 3 because he's running for a first down, and then we do the no huddle, and then he throws a deep pass to De'Ami Brown. I can see that happening with Jaylen Lane, jet sweeps, reverses. So it just adds a different element to the offense. So I think that helps Jaden out definitely, especially in that way. Gadget plays and different things like that can help add a different element to the run game and just take pressure off of Jaden Daniels' shoulders in that way. But I think Jaylen Lane just adding a speedster, a guy who runs a 4.3 40-yard dash, you always have to account for that on the field. And then just the speed, like I said, and just forcing a pass interference, I think Jaylen Lane will be able to do different things like that for sure. So, and yak ability. And Jaylen Lane, if he would have had better quarterback play at Virginia Tech, I feel like he definitely would have had at least one 900-yard season or 1,000-yard season, because he was balling. He led the team in receptions. He led the team in receptions and yards at Virginia Tech. Even though it was 400-something receiving yards he led the team in receiving yards at Virginia Tech last year. I think Josh Connolly, drafting him at right tackle or guard or whatever they decide, most likely he's going to be, I think Adam Peters did say he's going to be playing right tackle, if I'm not mistaken. But drafting another guy to protect you in pass protection, the run game, anytime you draft an offensive lineman to bolster the offense to protect the quarterback, Jaden's going to win in that situation. You already brought in Laramie Tunsil. You had him. Now you bring in Josh Connolly, who's a superb athlete. Did a great job against Abdul Carter and shut him down when he played against him. So anytime you add somebody to protect and give you more time in the pocket, how can you not win in that situation? So Jaden is a winner with getting Jaylen Lane, another receiver, another weapon, and getting another pass protector in Josh Connolly. So I think Jaden is definitely a winner in that way, just adding more ways to help out your franchise quarterback for sure. All right, so I have Mikey Samrill still next as a winner because he's going to go back to the slot. He was really good in the slot position at Michigan. Nick Saban said he would be the best player in the draft, pound for pound, and I think Chris Sims said the best slot corner in the draft. So he's going to be the best slot corner in the next 2 or 3 years or something like that in the NFL. And he had to play on the outside. Like, he had to pick up the slack. We had guys on the team who were they just weren't good enough. You just have to keep it real. So there were some other corners on the team that just weren't good enough. And Mikey had to play on the outside. We put Noah on the inside, interchanged those guys a lot. And Mikey did a darn good job. Like, you look at the Eagles game against Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, the Thursday night football game, he did a good job against those guys when they challenged him a couple times in the end zone. There were times where he had to make up the slack for other guys like Ben St-Juste. I think it was against the Lions where he ran over and deflected a pass to help out Ben St-Juste. So now he's going to go into the inside with drafting Trey Amos. Trey Amos is going to be on the outside, Marshawn on the outside, and now Mikey on the inside. And then Jonathan Jones is going to be a backup. Noah is going to be a backup. So Mikey can just, do what he naturally did at Michigan, and we can send him on blitzes, different things like that. So I think Mikey is a winner for sure going back into the slot, where it took him some time to get used to being outside. We know the first time he was outside was against Jamar Chase, which was not a favorable matchup for a rookie, but he still held his own and did a darn good job. He did get votes for Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. He was in the running for that. Like, he legit was a candidate for that. So I I think Mikey's going to do a good job going back into the slot position for sure. So I think he's a winner in that sense, where he can just go back to his natural position there. Another winner that I do have, I have B-Rob as a winner and loser in certain ways. So I have him as a winner because drafting Ja'Cory Krosky, JCM. Drafting JCM will take some of the workload off of his shoulders. Yes, it will take away snaps, take away carries and stuff like that. But at the same time, we've seen over the years that B-Rob, a 17-game season, yes, it's hard for everybody to play a whole 17-game season. It's hard for people to play a 16-game season when it was 16 games. But I think drafting another running back that, you know, has a different change of pace, because Eckler is just more finesse at this point in his career. He's been finesse throughout his whole career, but he's really finesse now with the concussions that he had. So we're not going to try to give him a bunch of carries. We're going to give him third down opportunities, screen pass opportunities, different things like that, just to switch up the pace. But really, JCM now is going to he should get the second most carries between him and B-Rob. B-Rob's going to get he's still going to get the majority of the carries. B-Rob's still going to start. He's going to get first down, second down. JCM can get first down and second down just to change the pace. And not even just change the pace. Like, I feel like it's definitely going to be more of a committee this year than just B-Rob getting a bunch of carries, and then Eckler, and then McNichols would be sprinkled in, and Chris Rodriguez, when somebody was hurt, would be sprinkled in. But now, so B-Rob can have fresher legs. Like, you look at the Titans game, that was a good split of carries. Even though that was a blowout, it was a good split of carries for B-Rob, where he just didn't have to do too much. The Cardinals game where we blew him out, the Browns game where we blew the Browns out, he didn't have to get a bunch of carries, where he was still fresh the next week. But we could just see he was burnt out by the Giants game, injured, game time decision and whatnot. Then by the game time would come, he was listed out, and Chris Rodriguez had to play. So he could just barely move towards the end of the season. He struggled towards the end of the season. I love B-Rob. So I just think, in a sense, he's winning because he gets less snaps to keep him more fresh. But on the flip side, he's a loser because he's on the last year of his contract. They already drafted a running back, basically, in JCM, who I think is capable of replacing B-Rob, if not this year, then possibly next year, for sure. And then, you know, if they don't want to bring B-Rob back, then they're probably going to draft another running back or sign a different running back. But I think he's a winner in a sense where he can stay fresh, but he's a loser where they said even before the draft they wanted to get a replacement and a 3-down back. But I think he did win in the sense that they didn't get Travion Henderson, they didn't get Caleb Johnson, they didn't get any of the top tier. Omarion Hampton, of course, we weren't going to get him. But they didn't get like a super replacement like Devin Neal. But JCM could definitely replace him, if it's not this year or next year. But I think he won and lost at the same time, if you guys get where I'm going with it, for sure. All right, another winner is Dietri Wise, and just the defensive ends in general. We did not draft a defensive end. We didn't bring in a UDFA defensive end. It doesn't mind that does not mean that we still will not sign Zadarius Smith or Von Miller or Dennis Gardick from the Cardinals. A lot of people were bringing him up in my last video. Matt Judon, I don't think we'll go after him. But Dennis Gardick wasn't with the Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury. So there's a connection there. But, you know, they didn't draft Donovan E. They didn't draft Mike Green. They didn't draft Nick Scorton, guys who were available. And then even after that, they didn't draft Braden Swinson in the 4th round when he was available. They went with Jaylen Lane, which I don't disagree with that move at all. But there were guys available. There were defensive ends available that could have helped. This year coming up. Like I said, Donovan E. But they chose to go with Josh Connolly. So Dietri Wise most likely will be your starter. Even if they bring in Zadarius Smith, we'll see who starts. But Dietri Wise is going to be your starter. Dorrance Armstrong is going to be your starter. Now, they may have still started if they drafted Donovan E. Donovan E. might have just been a backup rotational pass rusher, kind of like the Dante Fowler role this upcoming season. But now you know that Dietrich and Dorrance are going to start. Cleveland Farrell, I think the whole defensive ends position, Cleveland Farrell still going to get a bunch of snaps. Javonte John Baptiste, Jalen Holmes, if he's still on the roster. So if they drafted Donovan E., then he definitely would have taken away snaps from Javonte John Baptiste and also Jalen Holmes and guys like that, for sure. So I think the defensive end spot for the roster, let me see if Jalen Holmes is still on the roster. Cleveland Farrell, Javonte John Baptiste, and Jacob Martin, he's a winner. Andre Jones Jr. still on the roster too, probably the practice squad. And William Fehoko is still on the roster too. All right, so let's move on to the next winner or loser. So loser for me is Andrew Wiley. Andrew Wiley's still going to play this year because Sam Cosmi, I don't think he's going to be back week 1. So I think Andrew Wiley is going to have to play right guard. Right tackle will be Josh Connolly. Right guard, in my opinion, will be Andrew Wiley. Center, Tyler Biadasz. Left guard, Brandon Coleman. Left tackle, Laramie Tunsil. That's the way I think it's going to shake out. So now we know that Andrew Wiley most likely is going to be a backup, but he's going to be one of the better backup right tackles in the league to be behind Josh Connolly, because you don't draft a first-round pick to come off the bench. That's just that's just teams usually typically don't do that. So Connolly's going to start. So Wiley's going to the bench. So I think he's a loser in a sense in that way. Nick Allegretti as well, because Brandon Coleman now is going to start a left guard, and Nick Allegretti is going to be a backup. So those are two guys that lost their starting spots when Sam Cosmi does come back. And I think Brandon Coleman's going to play left guard instead of Nick Allegretti being your starting left guard. So those are guys that lost their starting positions. And then also I do have Michael Gallup or KJ Osborne, one of the two, because, I mean, you can keep 7 guys, but if they did not draft a receiver, then Michael Gallup probably would have been the 6th receiver. But since they drafted a receiver instead of going edge, and then if let's say they would have drafted Braden Swinton, and then linebacker K. Madrano in the 6th round, and then in the 7th round, Ja'Cory Krosky, JCM, they would not have drafted a receiver with the 5 picks. So getting the receiver Jaylen Lane, the 6 guys that I see making the roster is Terry, Debo, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Jaylen Lane. So Terry, Debo, Noah, Lane, Luke. That's 5 receivers. And then my philosophy, you guys know how I feel about the wide receiver position. Every year we do the 53-man roster prediction, or I do it. I don't like keeping 7 receivers. I just don't think it's really necessary, especially since we have a top 10 receiver in Terry. We have a legitimate playmaker in Debo. Noah Brown's a good number 3 in this league, number 4 receiver, whatever you want to call him. Jaylen Lane is a speedster, and you got Luke McCaffrey who creates separation and can get open. We just got to get him the football. So I think we have a solid, pretty darn good receiver room that can get the job done, guys that can get open for sure. And like you said, when you have a number 1 receiver in Terry, that just makes the room, that just pushes the room up anyway, because we have such an elite receiver in Terry McLaurin and a really good quarterback that makes people better around him. So I just don't think it's necessary to keep 7 receivers. So either Michael Gallup or KJ Osborne are going to be fighting for that last spot. And then Ja'Cory Brooks, bring him in. I'm pretty high on Ja'Cory Brooks. I think, if he doesn't make the 53, at least the practice squad. And then the other receivers that are still on the roster, let me make sure Mitchell Tinsley is still a part of the organization. I don't see him on here, but Casimir Allen is still a part of the organization. And then they don't have Mitchell Tinsley, and they don't have Bryson Tremaine on the depth chart that I'm looking at right now. Mike Strachan is still on the roster. And Chris Moore is still a part of the organization too. So it's just tough. Drafting Jaylen Lane pushed Chris Moore back, and pushed Casimir Allen's not going to make the roster anyway. But it pushed a couple guys back. The 6'5" guy, Michael Strachan, and Ja'Cory Brooks coming into the fold too. I think he's going to push some guys in competition in training camp, mini camp, OTAs. I think Ja'Cory Brooks is going to fool around and make it very, very tough. I think he's going to have one of those Cam Sims, Mitchell Tinsley type preseason games where he has a touchdown and like 80 yards or something like that. I think that's what we're going to see from Ja'Cory Brooks out of Louisville, who went to Alabama and was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So I think a loser to me would be either Michael Gallup or KJ Osborne. One of the two is not going to make the roster. If they keep 7, those 2 may make the roster. But if they keep 6, Michael Gallup or Osborne, or maybe even Ja'Cory Brooks may make the roster. So that's why I said, I think those guys, it just made it tougher on Osborne. It made it tougher on Michael Gallup, bringing Jaylen Lane into the fold. So, all right, you guys let me know what you guys think. If you guys disagree with anything or feel like I left anybody out, please comment down and let me know. Or if you guys agree, just let me know as well. Everybody have a great day. Hell Commanders. Peace.